Good morning, Austin New Church. Hope you guys are doing well this morning. Hope your coffee is hot. And we're excited to worship with you guys this morning. You'll see a new face up here behind the trumpet. This is my friend Michael Ray, and you guys are in for a treat.
Just as long as I'm hidden in you. And if I could just sit with you a while, if you could just hold me, nothing can touch me, though I'm wounded, though I've died. If I could just sit with you a while, I need you to hold me, moment by moment, till forever passes by. Lord, I humbly need, hidden in you. Lord, you are my life, so I don't mind to die, just as long as I'm hidden in you. If I could just sit with you a while, if you could just hold me, nothing can touch me, though I'm wounded, though I've died. If I could just sit with you a while, I need you to hold me, moment by moment, till forever passes by. If I could just sit with you a while, if you could just hold me, nothing can touch me, though I'm wounded, though I've died. If I could just sit with you a while, I need you to hold me, moment by moment, till forever passes by. Moment by moment, till forever passes by. passes by. Lord, I don't want to rush on ahead in my own strength when you're right here. Lord, I don't want to rush on ahead in my own strength when you're right here. I'm not in a hurry when it comes to your spirit, when it comes to your presence, when it comes to your voice. I'm learning to listen, just to rest in your nearness. I'm starting to notice you are speaking. Lord, I wanna love like you, wanna feel what you feel, wanna see what you see. Lord, I wanna love like you, wanna feel what you feel, wanna see what you see. I'm not in a hurry when it comes to your spirit, when it comes to your presence, when it comes to your voice. I'm learning to listen, just to rest in your nearness. I'm starting to notice you are speaking. Open my eyes, wanna see you more clearly. Open my ears, wanna hear you speak. Tell me your thoughts, what's on your mind. I'll be your friend, wanna see through your eyes. Open my eyes, wanna see you more clearly. Open my ears, wanna hear you speak. Tell me your thoughts, what's on your mind. I'll be your friend, wanna see through your eyes, wanna see through your eyes, wanna see through your eyes, wanna see through your eyes. I'm not in a hurry when it comes to your spirit, when it comes to your presence, when it comes to your voice. I'm learning to listen, just to rest in your nearness. I'm starting to notice you are speaking.
What's up, ANC? We're so glad that you're here with us this morning. If you haven't yet, say good morning to the person next to you, because it's nice. Good morning. I don't know if I said good morning to y'all. Good morning. We've got a little discussion question for you guys this morning, and it's going to be up on the screen. What is an activity that you find restorative? What is an activity you find restorative? Feel free to chat about that at home, but also in the comments as we move forward.
Man, it's almost like we practiced that. Did y'all see that? Such a great transition. I'll tell you what is suddenly restorative to me, listening to a trumpet player play so softly. That's amazing. That's amazing work. Yeah. You guys know there's two people that are always thrown out of the band, right? It's the trumpet player and the drummer. They're like, hey, we'll call you when we're ready. Thank you guys. Always such a joy. The art in Austin isn't terrible, and so when you're willing to work with good people, there's great musicians available on Sunday morning. So I know that's not true in, well, wherever you live, but it's true here. So it's always good. It's the first time we've met Michael Ray, so good stuff. So welcome to this little space. And when we say welcome, I want to acknowledge that your willingness to tune in and participate, even to think of joining us on mission as we seek to discern together how to be the body of Christ in a brand new world, which is just another way of saying how to be good people in our cities. I want to acknowledge that that's a decision you make, and so we see you out there. And there's more to come later if you've never actually joined us on mission. There's more to come later on this week and actually in the next coming weeks. And I just want you to know that we are thinking actively about ways to encourage you to partner with us virtually all around the country, wherever you are. And we actually have some suggestions, and they won't be complicated, they'll be simple. But there's some opportunities coming to us, and so stay tuned for that later. So listen, actually, stay tuned after the live stream today for a conversation that we're going to have about some opportunities coming up here in Austin at the end of this week. And then go ahead and keep track of whatever questions you might have related to a Q&A we're going to do after our service about how to engage and how to participate. There's going to be a number on the screen. Actually, there's a number on the screen right now. So as you think of questions, go ahead and text those questions to us, and then Trey and I will sit after the service for a few minutes, and we'll answer those questions as best we can. This week I was on a phone call with several dozen United Methodist pastors around the country, and the question was, how do we engage people in virtual space? And one of the ways that we've done it, and we've not mastered it, we're just trying, but one of the things we've tried is to have that Q&A space where we can actually talk about reopening. What are we doing? What are the ministries up to? How do we serve? Things like that. So don't tune out when it's over. Stay tuned and you'll see us pop back on for a very informal, always super entertaining. Trey on screen is like doing 80 miles an hour in a convertible in the rain on bald tires with no seatbelts. You might get there. You might not. You never know what he's going to say. And so tune in for that, if nothing else, for the entertainment value. Also, no weather report this week, you guys. I don't even want to talk about what happened yesterday in Austin, because if we did, the Brunings in Iowa would probably sell the farm and move here. We keep our perfect weather days a secret, so there's no weather report this week. Everybody's Googling back saying it was spectacular. 66 degrees and raining in the morning. I know that's not a big deal in Pennsylvania. That's a thing down here in Central Texas. Anyway, back to the welcome. So if you've been kicking around ANC for years, welcome. If you're brand new here, welcome to you too. If you're totally over church, I had this conversation this week, but you just can't seem to shake tuning us in or coming to this little place when it's open, welcome. If you're a lifelong Methodist or a Catholic or Baptist, or you're completely agnostic about all of it, welcome, because you're here too and we see you. It's weird and beautiful, actually, how this little community has grown this year of all years, and we embrace all of it. We embrace all of you. We welcome every single one of you here. Every single one of you belongs with us here in this place. And as always, let us know who you are. Let us know where you live. Let us know how we can encourage you from here. So I've enjoyed relooking at the parables of Jesus this summer. We're not quite done. I've especially enjoyed last week. And so we're going to push pause today just for a moment. And we're going to build on some of the thoughts that are still lingering from last week. There's still some things percolating in my heart and in my head. And I'm not done thinking about the parable of the lost sheep, if I'm honest, and maybe I never will be. It's not that I didn't try to move on this week. All week I tried to power forward and teach something fresh, but I'm stuck here because the thought that I am what heaven seeks, that I am and have always been found, is setting me free right now. Laura Jennings told me a story this week about a friend of hers named Julie, and it touched me. Her friend was raised in evangelical spaces, much like us, and some time ago she got that, the requisite cross tattoo on the lower arm. You remember the 90s? But now that she's deconstructing her faith and she's thinking things a little differently, she feels a little self-conscious about presenting that arm to people with that big cross right there. And so after last week's sermon, the parable on the Mount, she decided what she'd have it redesigned into, and it's simply going to read, found. And I love that. We might need a picture of that later, Julie, by the way. So I don't know about you, but learning to accept the fact that God has never not pursued me is reformatting my hard drive completely. And I'm not a computer guy. That's actually for you, Jake. Thought you might think that's funny. So after fighting all this week with my insides and discussing it at length with my team, I think we need to hover here for just a moment longer and build on this truth. If you don't catch what we said, if you didn't hear it, I'm just going to encourage you to go back. You can find it in our podcast stream, or you can find it live streamed onto our Facebook or YouTube pages. Here's the thing. I don't think I can articulate the gospel any tighter than we did last week. The fact is, these simple little stories of Jesus that he told to the people around him still have the power to change lives. That is why I cannot let them go. You will never see me as the progressive preacher who lets go of the Bible. All week, I've been up early, I've been up late, I've been ruminating on this truth. Being found by God has never had much to do with my effort to become an accomplished seeker. It just hasn't. And after all is said and done, I'm learning to collapse into this new awareness that I am what's being sought in the stories that Jesus tells. So if transformation and freedom and breakthrough and all the things I'm looking for, all the things you're looking for, aren't the result of our intense seeking, then how does it work? What's the catch? How do we get really good at this religion thing, right? If heaven is hunting me and hunting you, where then should we direct all this effort? What do we do with all this desire to perform and impress and earn and prove? I might need the Cliff Notes after all, because I've wasted a good bit of my time, it seems. And you don't need me to tell you that these aren't easy times we're living in, and it doesn't look like they're going to change anytime soon for the better. Somewhere on Interstate 10, coming back from Florida a few weeks ago with my family in tow, it hit me. We will most likely lose an entire year of normal before we emerge from this global pandemic. And even that's uncertain, if we're honest. We've been driven inside into places that we used to avoid. We've been forced to face our inner landscape because access to outer distractions has been cut off. And I worry about us. I worry about our health, physical, mental, spiritual. Sometimes I get up on a Monday and I turn immediately to a new text, and sometimes I start with what's bubbling in my soul, and it goes back and forth. Sometimes I begin with what's happening in my soul regarding me, regarding you, regarding us, regarding what God is doing in and through us in this place. I always start by pouring a hot cup of hope, scientifically known as coffee. You know what I'm talking about. And I sit with it, and you, and me, and us, every morning at 6 on my porch. Usually some sprinklers somewhere in my yard are still going off while the foxes are still finding their way back to their daytime hiding places after a night of hungry pursuit. This pandemic has taken a lot, but it's also left a lot behind. It's left some things of real value. And I wonder if you found this to be true for you as much as I have for me. All this time alone, all this time away from society, all this time away from our gathering, away from the public places we love to frequent, all this time away has forced me into the inner landscapes of my life. The ability to distract myself from the disorder within that was always there by staying on the surface of my life has been permanently altered. So I'm getting it into shape. I'm paying attention on the inside differently. Which has me wondering if I even miss the way the old world was, or if I just hate being told what I can and can't do. There's so much more of my soul in focus these days, and I don't want that to change, even when we emerge from this. I used to tell myself that everything I did was important. All the busyness was for good reason. We would sit around and brag about that, if we're honest. But now that so much of that routine has been taken away, I'm not so sure it was as important as I thought. And I think you're with me. So my rhythms and my habits have changed, possibly, hopefully, for good. COVID has given me the opportunity to bring order to the inside, and that inner order is changing how I engage the outside world. Now we're beginning to get somewhere. Honestly, stark lines that are drawn between inside and outside realities all break down at some level anyway. I just used to keep myself so damn busy I didn't notice as much as I do now. And it's funny how loss and grief and change can force us to admit what our souls already always knew, that our inner and outer worlds flow together seamlessly back and forth. It's like a sunset on North Captiva Island. If you wait long enough, eventually it becomes almost impossible to distinguish between ocean and sky. It becomes one palette of colors. Why would you even try? What, after all, is inside and what is outside? And we won't go into that. Here's what I'm learning. Most of us spend our entire existence seeking something we already have inside. And that's the secret no one tells us. The treasure is not where we've been looking, so we struggle to find it until exhaustion, that divine tool that God loves to wield, eventually guarantees that we are found by love. Transformation generally happens right when we stop fighting. You know what I'm talking about. Right when we give up, when we settle in, and when we let ourselves fall into the lap that has always already been there, right beneath us, perfectly positioned to hold our eventual becoming, our falling, our descent, our ultimate identity as the found ones. Life will inevitably find ways to remind us that we belong to two realms. We are both sky and sea, and sometimes when we allow it, it can become impossible to distinguish between our inner and outer resources. One feeds the other. But that takes practice. And we have lots of names for this kind of practice. You could call it discipleship if that word works for you, or deconstruction, or growth, or transformation, whatever word works for you. It requires release, and it requires rhythm and attention to the inner landscape. There was a rhythm to the life of Jesus. His life was not an unbroken thread of efforts and activities on the outside. You remember, he lived for nearly 30 years before we know much of anything he did. And even after 30 years of preparation for those 3 years of ministry, he often still withdrew into quiet places of rest, right in the middle of the action. Now, we can't be exactly sure what his daily rhythms were, since the chronology in our text is imprecise and probably incomplete. His day probably didn't begin as mine does, with good coffee and the Insight Timer app. We know this. But what we do know is that Jesus recharged, often alone. Luke writes this in chapter 5, these brief verses. He says, "But now more than ever, the word about Jesus spread abroad. Many crowds would gather to hear him and be cured of their diseases." Verse 16 reads, "But he would withdraw to deserted places and pray." according to the chronology that Luke recalls here, right after Jesus begins calling his first disciples, you'll remember the story. It's something like drop the nets, the fish are on the other side of the boat. Immediately after healing the man of leprosy, a skin disease that equaled being outcast from society, right before he heals the paralytic man who's lowered through the thatched roof by good friends because Jesus couldn't be gotten to, he was so popular. Right after all of this, in the middle of all these demands, all this work, this endless conversations and defenses about who he was to people in authority, right in the middle of all of this, Luke offers us this editorial comment. He says, he would often withdraw to deserted places to pray. Right in the middle of the action, Jesus had a little disappearing act he liked to do. Right when things were getting going and the crowds would turn around and look for him and he would be gone. Sometimes into the wilderness, sometimes into a fishing boat, sometimes he just walked the water. Poof, he would vanish. He'd pull the plug. He'd punch out. He'd sneak away. Why? When? More importantly, what about all the ones he left unhealed, untouched, unchanged because he needed to rest? I mean, come on, Messiah, lean in and let's get busy. You've been preparing for this your whole life. People need you. But poof, he'd pull away sometimes, even to the consternation of his dear mother. How did he know when to double down and when to disappear? Did he ever get it wrong? And I have nightmares sometimes about the little scene at the pool where all of the people with broken bodies and crippling diseases would gather. Whoever was first to throw themselves into the water after the angel of the Lord would stir the surface with their finger, that person would be healed. And into all this expectation and hope and grief, Jesus walks, healing one man before he turns around, walks back out, leaving all the rest to fend for themselves. Why? Don't try to make up doctrine about this little story. I'm not interested in theories about why this man in particular deserved to be healed. Don't bring me faith that creates healing while the others did not. I'm not interested in that right now. For a moment, just sit with this disappointment because you felt it 100 times over the years. You've been overlooked. You've been passed by. Jesus went to rest right before your need was met. How did Jesus decide what was important enough and what wasn't? Because I have issues, frankly, with some of his decisions. What was his official criteria for action and engagement? Which isn't really the question that interests me most. Here it is. How do we decide when to push ahead and when to retreat, when to vanish, when to disappear for the sake of the health of our souls, and when to lean in and get the work done? That's the question that I need an answer to. Jesus knew what all great spiritual masters eventually discover, that our inner worlds inform our outer worlds, and now you see where we're going. And it takes time alone in solitude and rest to cultivate an inner landscape. We all eventually learn that somewhere on the seafloor of our soul, beneath the raging waves, the riptides of life, somewhere down inside us, there is a place to fall back into, a lap to collapse into, a place we can find strength for the demands that happen on the surface of our lives. Maybe we need to learn to disappear like Jesus, more often with greater intention. Not after our lives crumble, maybe before they begin to crack, before the demands empty us out entirely. I'm actually beginning to wonder about this question. Did Jesus rest after long stretches of draining crowd work, or did he rest before, on the front side of the work, effectively building his resilience and strength before he needed it? You know, how we answer this question, when we lean in and when we pull back and when to make that decision for the sake of our souls, will have a lot to do with how long we can stay present and engaged. How we balance our inner and outer lives predicts our impact in the end, not to mention the happiness along the way. These are dynamic decisions. They're not easy. I've had to learn the hard way how to put the proper rests into my life, into my week, and I do it before the demands. I'm learning when to double down and when to back off. I wonder if it would bore you to hear some of the details about my weekly routine. Now, given this is pre-COVID, so filter what you're about to hear. This won't surprise you. Sundays are my big day, and generally, Sundays make me either super happy or super sad. If I think that we connected and I said well what needed to be said, I feel pretty good and I take credit for it and I go home happy. If things don't go as well as I hoped, if I say something dumb or tick someone off or someone has, that stinky face, or just if I just miss the moving target or just don't get it done, then I feel pretty down about it. I take credit for that too. Either way, Sundays take a huge emotional toll on my body and on my mind. So I've learned that what I do immediately after Sunday's emotional work is important, almost as important as what I do immediately before it. So I rest before the heavy lifting, and then I get back to work immediately after it's done, which is why I don't take Mondays off. You see, the freight train of the Sunday thought, the whole thing and the exchange is still rolling when I wake up on Monday mornings. The momentum is still there in my heart and in my mind, and whether it was a win or a loss, every little detail still feels available to me, all the feedback, all the comments. And so what I do is I get up on Monday and I get right back to work. Once the girls are off to school, remember when we used to do that, put kids on buses and send them to school? Once the kids are off to school, I head downtown from where we live outside of Austin in my beat-up old 2003 Toyota Tacoma. Don't ask me, I've never loved a truck more than this one. It's just one of those rides. I generally come to town listening to the audio podcasts of the sermon the day before. I roll into downtown Austin around 7:30, give or take, and I start my run around Town Lake. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Austin, you might be confused when we refer to our beloved body of water downtown as a lake. Actually, she's a river. It's the lower Colorado. But you'd need to know that we like to change names on things, right? And so we dammed her on either side and we call her a lake. We give ourselves that permission. Anyhow, we do that just to confuse you out-of-towners. That's what we do. But whatever variation of 4, 6, 8, or 10 miles I feel like running that day, whatever I'm in the mood for, I run the loop of Lady Bird Lake. Oh yeah, that's another name for that same body of water. And when I'm done, I grab my stuff out of my truck and I take a quick dip in Barton Springs, 68 degrees every day of the year, no matter how hot it is outside. Then I shower, and I grab a table down at Jack Wilson's place, and you might know that as Radio Coffee and Beer. Once there, I immediately start writing my next sermon for the following Sunday. That's what I do on Mondays. Why? Because the thought train is still rolling forward, and if I let it stop, it takes a ton of effort to get it moving again. I need to find my body again, and it's not the best time for me to rest on a Monday morning. So a good run in some cold water and some good coffee pulls me back from the recesses of my mind into my body, which is in turn empowers me to go back into my heart and into my mind to pull these words for you after I've found them for myself. And so I write as much as I can and rejoin my family for dinner on Monday afternoons. What's my point? It's a flow, body and spirit, inner and outer balance. It's both and. This pastoring gig isn't just about thought work. My body has to support the thinking, these ideas, eventually, it has to carry them before they become sermons or challenges or tears or encouragement. My body has to carry the words first, and I have to pay attention to both, the inner and the outer world. So I rest on Fridays, ahead of the strain. And if the week went well, if my manuscript is turned into my team by Thursday at some point, then my reward is to completely forget about everything on Friday. So much so that by the time Sam texts me and says, hey, what's the text for tomorrow? I often have absolutely no idea what she's asking. I rest hard so that I can work hard. I vanish right here in town. Sometimes in a beat-up truck, sometimes on a beautiful old motorcycle, sometimes into a pair of expensive earphones right at the kitchen table that I turn them up so loud I can't hear anything going on. I vanish right there in front of my family. This is no longer something I feel guilty about. I disappear ahead of the strain because I know how dangerous demands can be. I know how easy it can be for me to lose myself in the needs of others. I disappear so that I can attend to the inside, so that I can descend into the depths where the waves and the riptides don't go. I gather my strength and focus before I need it most. I try to keep an eye on the gauges and the signs of fatigue before they become a threat to my overall well-being. Now, this is just what works best for me. You'll have to find your own rhythm. I don't know what it is. All I can tell you is that it will involve some doubling down and some pulling back. It can't just be one or the other, and so do both with your whole heart. A word of caution before we end. Hiding is not the same as healthy, periodic, rhythmic, intentional disappearing. Hiding is different. Hiding behind unhealthy habits and addictions only feels helpful until we realize that we don't come back recharged and refocused. It's not my job to tell you how to distinguish between the two, hiding versus arresting, except to say that if it makes you meaner and crabbier to the ones you love the most, it's probably something you should move away from. No shame, no guilt, no judgment coming from me, but let's learn and let's lean in and be honest with ourselves. If we are not the seekers, but the sought, and our greatest work is to allow ourselves to be found, then we get to relax into love and belonging. We get to pull away as needed into whatever we already need to comfort ourselves. It's already available inside. And knowing that we always have this option available to us at any moment will sustain us for the long haul ahead. I wonder, do you feel loved enough to accept this good news today? Pray with me. Lord, we give you thanks. Even now, in the silence of this moment, give us strength and comfort. As our kids go back to school, give us strength and focus and rest. As our businesses continue to suffer, give us rest and focus, resilience and strength. As our marriages, our relationships begin to show stress fatigue cracks and just the reality of being cooped up so long together, give us strength and peace and comfort. Draw us to places of rest. In your name we pray. Amen.
Oh God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. Oh God, oh God, you are my God. My soul thirsts for you. Oh God, you are my God. My flesh faints for you. Like in a dry and weary land where there is no water, I've looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and your glory. Your steadfast love is better than life. My lips will praise you. Oh God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. Oh God, you are my God. My soul thirsts for you. Oh, like in a dry and weary land where there is no water, I've looked upon you in
in the sanctuary, beholding your power and your glory. For your steadfast love is better than life. My lips will praise you. Steadfast love is better than life. Steadfast love is better than life. Oh, your love is better than
Oh God, you are. Feels like an ocean of sorrow is under my skin. Even the ocean eventually meets with the sand. Sorrow on sorrow I'm waiting, heavy I'm anticipating, trusting the current will carry me. Expectations and fears in our hearts. Send us your light as we're making our way through the dark. All of the earlier was useless until you lifted high in your mercy out of sorrow and made new. Oh, this morning cannot measure all your favors in this world. So we shout in adoration, holy, holy are you, Lord. You are my strength. You are my song. You are my salvation. You hold it all together. You hold it all together. You hold it all together.
Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Oh, he bailed on that note.
I ran out of air. Sorry.
Yeah, you could play that note. You can play that note all day long as far as I'm concerned. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. And thank you for joining us, all of you, wherever you are. We're proud of what God has done in this place, and we're poised and interested and anxious about what comes next, and nobody knows. So here we are. But I'm glad you've joined us. Had this been a live service, or when these are live services again, we always end our time reflecting in the text with the reminder that there's more than one way that Christ is in the world. He's not just in the word of truth that we remember that's passed to us through generations and many layers of wise women and men and children who have layered up the gospel of love and passed it to us. That's not the only way he's in the world. There is also this other mysterious way in which he inhabits the very bread and wine that sustains our body to an increasing awareness of his goodness in the world. And so we would gather around the table as we would gather around the word, and we do that every Sunday. And so when you come back, when you join us for the first time, that rhythm will become natural, and you'll learn to enjoy those moments. We do it differently than most Methodist churches, maybe differently than every Methodist church. Maybe that's not even stretching it. And we just gather around the basic theology that says all bread is holy. It doesn't take a ceremony to make it holy. It takes the remembrance of the goodness of God and the presence of love in the world to make all things sacred. And so as you gather today with the people you love, maybe at the pool, maybe on a walk, maybe outside enjoying this lovely weather, a cool down is 94 degrees. We'll take that. Do that knowing how deeply infused your life is with the love of God. And so now these words from our poet who picked up a different piece of the text than I chose to hover over today, but you'll see why in Luke 5. Mark is writing on still the same ideas as last week. And so he writes, and these will be our words of benediction. He writes, benediction for the commuters working too hard to change. Perhaps this is a season between miracles, or perhaps we are the fish this time, the haul and not the hauler. The miracle we're given to. Here we are, Lord. We are swimming beneath your boat and tired of ourselves. Take us. Go in peace today. Well done. Well done, guys.
Thank you. We're on? We're good?
Are we on?
Are we on?
Are we
Is this
on?
thing on?
Hey, what can we do quickly to increase the chance that Sam will come back and get in the frame and say something
Really crass?
really amazing?
Right?
And if you don't know what we're talking about, you better dig last week.
Tune in
y'all,
last week.
Y'all,
I'll just tell you all it's messed up.
yeah,
Dude,
just tell us it's messed up.
I'm telling you something. Michael, you may have cemented yourself in a permanent rotation if you'll have us.
Ha ha.
I've never seen as many comments on our Facebook feed as the trumpet.
Now,
Huh?
now, now,
Right.
okay. Now, real time question, just to embarrass all of us: is it because he's so good looking, or is it because he
Probably.
can play the
hat.
play
I think
the?
it's the hat.
No, I think it's the plunger. It's the plunger. It's the. Yeah. Oh, in case you thought we were serious. Oh, we just aren't. You're so disappointed now.
Right.
Oh.
But no, that was great. I love that.
Yes. And thank you, Dewey and Allison, for being in the room. I wish we could turn around. Someday we'll have sophisticated cameras and we can do
Yes.
a turnaround. We have 2 golden ticket recipients in the back of the room bringing some energy. I think that's why Michael played so well. He generally isn't that
Right.
good. It's just when there's ladies in the room. No, I'm just joking. But Dewey and Allison have joined us since we shut the world down. And so be looking if you're interested and you're part of our virtual audience. And let's say you've never been here and you're curious what this monster mega baby tiny little church actually is. Connect to Sam at sam@austonnewchurch.com and we'll get you in a rotation because
And
it's fun to have
also-
energy in the room.
And also ANC Virtual, we have a lot of people trying to. ANC is the
It's being infiltrated.
the ANC is the initials of the African National Congress.
Correct.
So we've got a lot of people in South Africa trying to join that as well. So
We also have a couple of our old timers who are just nosy. So let's not let's leave that for the virtual people.
right. So
Anyway.
but join us there. You'll find out more about the golden ticket or just ways on connection. And speaking of,
Yeah.
we've got Restore Weekend coming up this next week, and although that looks a lot more virtual than normal, we have some ways
Yeah.
of serving in person. I think Allison was saying she came out to the Tillotson March that you guys were at, and she was thinking it was an ANC thing.
Yeah, we have a few people in town. We had 10,000 people in town. ANC is a church of 10,000 people. Yeah.
Anyway, she said she was asking different people, "Are you from ANC? Are you from ANC?" And they were like, "I don't know what you're talking about. What are
Super
you
funny.
spelling?"
Yeah.
Anyway, but no, that wasn't just our march, but that's sweet that you thought it was.
We were there.
We were there.
You
You were there
yeah,
with your hat.
Yeah.
She was
yeah.
looking for your hat eventually.
That's a big crowd, y'all. That's a big crowd.
Yeah, but anyway.
A brief description because I'm aware that this audience now is mixed of people who are totally brand new and other people who actually know what we mean when we say Restore Weekend. So in the beginning of our church years ago, we decided to commit to any time in the calendar year that 5 Sundays fell within a month, we would take that 5th Sunday, and it happens about 4 times a year. We would take that 5th Sunday and cancel all services and organize around serving the community. And so the question for us has been, how do you do that during COVID? And the answer's been kind of a moving target. So what do we have coming up next Saturday?
During COVID, we have not canceled service because we've been encouraging people to serve virtually and in some cases in person. So this next week, you guys were off to a great start on it. One of the things that we're doing is at Santa Rita, we're providing 76 back to school gift cards to the tune of $25 each. And honestly, I didn't do the math really well when I promised to purchase that, and actually went ahead and purchased. That's nearly $2,000. But we're about halfway there.
When you
which
say
is
back to
great.
school, you mean pajamas, hotspot,
Right.
Chromebook, right?
No,
Like, what do you mean?
Some of these kids are actually needing
they're
some
going.
supplies to go back, and maybe it's a lot of hand sanitizer. I have no idea. But we're giving 76 individual students a $25 gift card. So a parent might have 3 students, and they get 3 of them, and they take them back to Walmart and purchase whatever they need. But we're about halfway there on that, and that was just through one sharing, I think, Friday. So we've already bought all of them. So if you will help us backfill.
This is like Girl Scout cookies, isn't it? You have to buy them all, and then you hope your kid
Right,
can sell
hope
them.
you can sell
no
them.
more, sell what you can.
Right. So do we have
yeah.
the link to that up? So we put the link. We put the link to the ANC giving page. If you'll scroll down to PayPal and do that in increments of $25. If you want to give 10, that would be $250. Look, I did the math there.
You do the math, it's pretty good.
Or if you want to do 250 or 1 would be great. But yeah, go to that, scroll down to the PayPal link, use that link, and you can buy a gift card for a person in Santa Rita. Santa Rita is one of the oldest housing communities in the nation, and we have it here in Austin. And so this is a group we've been partnering with for about 3 years now, and the relationships that we're building have been incredible. Another way that we're going to help them next week is through their the food pantry. ANC's done a fabulous job stocking that. We use an Amazon gift link to do that, and so right now I think cleaning supplies are up. Next week it might be expanded back to food, but we did so well with the food that we're also helping the Rosewood community, which is another
very
housing,
old,
housing community over there on the east side. And so,
So the food pantry basically works as a place where families in transition in that place that are on tough times. Miss Lupe, because I know you're watching, Lupe, because you always watch, does a good job of understanding and knowing where to make those connections. So it's just a fallback sort of safety net for some of those folks in that place. And we've loved, because you can stock that with a single click and ship from Amazon. So we're going to use Jeff Bezos to save the world.
there you go.
So anyway, yeah.
Tell us about La Posada. I know we've got another thing that we're coming out. If one of the things you're dying to do is to get outside in the heat and actually do some work, do some yard work, do some digging, do some gardening. I don't know what that was, Sam. Was that gardening?
Sam's gardening.
I'm not sure. If
She's
digging,
doing-
she was burying a body, maybe. She was doing this.
Yeah, she's doing theater gardening. Of course, that looks, since we've watched all of Netflix, that looks like somebody just died. She's over there shoveling a hole.
Digging a hole.
Yeah, no, but yard work, basic stuff. So guys, if you've got good weed eaters and good garden implements, we're not looking for a ton of people. I think we need another 5 or 6 people. But let's be sure it's the people who
Can.
Let's just say, if you had to make your living cutting grass, you're the kind of person who could do that. That was me for many years.
I'm retired.
So this guy doesn't have any gardening implements because he doesn't want to be asked, hey, can I borrow your weed eater?
Nor a
That's
pickup
still,
truck. I don't have a
anyway,
pickup truck
I still
either.
have both. So anyway, that's just a simple way to engage at La Posada. What else?
And then we've also got the partnership that we've just kind of started up with Riverbend Church. They've got a food distribution center just right over here by the church, over by off Ben White Boulevard. If showing up in person and loading food, if you've always wanted to be a food loader in trunks and you can't get a job at HEB, then you can
Always.
join over and volunteer this. So we've got those links. We'll be sending those out to you this week. And then also, it ties into a couple of the questions that we've been asked online. Thank you for those. I'll share that number with you. Jake, is that up? 512-200-8729. And I have to put on these things
up.
in order to see them. Are there opportunities for us to get engaged with socially distanced gatherings or Zoom book clubs or other Austinites until we can meet up in person? So that's something that is coming, and I hate, it kind of sounds like a broken record, but we've talked about breaking into zones. Right now, they're in the infancy phase, and we're trying to get them all connected and with leadership and different parts of town where people will be gathering, socially distanced, of course, or virtually with folks who are near you. So
Some of you have already heard from the person in your region, and so respond to that. You'll be reached out to by someone who you may not know, but respond to that, and we're going to begin to move in the direction of some responsible, small, distanced gatherings, because I think we can do that now safely, and
Right.
we're anxious to do that.
So be on the Austin New Church website. There's a virtual tab. Also, Austin New Church Facebook page and the ANC virtual page.
Right.
Can we get Sam's email again? Yes, Sam, SAM, @austonnewchurch.com.
Super easy.
Yep.
What else?
Let's talk about the virtual. We've got these virtual roundtables that we've got coming up, and they're all pretty much all in the month of September. They're going to look like we're going to have one on back to school. What that's looking like, questions, best practices, just getting together with other parents who've got small kids. Maybe you're not in the classroom, but you're trying to handle things in a homeschooling type fashion.
Right.
And you're not a homeschooler at all, and you're trying to figure that out. This is going to be for you. So stay tuned for that date in
sometime in September.
And we'll share those via email and on the Facebook pages. There's also going to be an ANC Creatives Roundtable, yes? Sam's going to host that, and it's just going to be where people get together and discuss ideas of how to do this church thing in a creative, new way, bringing your gifts to bear. We see that occasionally.
We've actually got a big heart for that, and we've got some big ideas. I won't leak them. I'll just tease them. That Sam and I actually spent a lot of time thinking and talking about how do we engage all of the artists in our community. Not just poets and preachers and singers like Kitty Howell, the painters, and Don Brimberry, sculptors, and ceramicists. I think that's the technical term. But how do we engage them all? Because the reality is how we embody this good news. Sometimes it'll last longer in a picture than it does in a spoken word. And so that's a big heart of ours, and that's kind of the impulse behind the gathering of the creatives. And so more to come with that in regards to that.
And we're going to be talking about mission. We're going to talk about mission as well. Not only global, which is a huge deal for us, with our partnership with Help One Now, coming up on September 18th.
Nope, September 13th.
September
Actually,
13th.
okay, so here's the tease. I'm going to try not to get it wrong. My wife is going to let me know when I walk in the kitchen if I got this wrong. Family Empowerment Day for Help One Now, which is a big push in the fall, actually happens on the 15th of September. 2 days prior is the Sunday, the 13th. That's going to be when we begin to answer your question from out of town that you've asked us many, many times. How do we engage with ANC from Iowa, from Pennsylvania, from Illinois? How do we engage from Florida? And our answer to you is going to be something along the lines of engage locally as you're able, but we always have this 1-2 thing we do with our global partner. We were twinned in ministry birth 12 years ago with Help One Now. We became a local church. They became a nonprofit. But we've shared that history. We've shared a lot of different minds and hearts over the years. If you are asking yourself, what do I do with what's going on inside me around this little church I found online? How do I get involved? We did a new partner class recently where we had 30 or 40 people from around the country say, we want to be with you. So our answer to you is going to be then engage with us in mission. And the easy way to do that is coming up on the 15th of September. You'll hear all about it on the 13th. We're teasing something a little weird to kind of get motivated around it. We have a church, well, we don't have a church, but there is a church in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a progressive Methodist church, a lot like ours, affiliated also with Help One Now. And we thought it might be fun to motivate our people into giving by saying there's a reward on the table for those who can get behind this the most, in that your pastor will wear something horribly awful and out of style
Baggy
and
jeans.
disgusting to put on for the live stream on the 13th. Y'all, I have physical responses, like bodily reactions to like khaki pleated cuffed pants and like tennis shoes.
I like that.
I can't even tell you the evil that is being conceived in the minds of your pastor right now. So Church on Morgan, which is the church in Raleigh, and we're going to kind of do a sort of a little competition in-house. You know, we don't have basketball anymore. We don't have anything to compete with. So that's coming. What it will be an opportunity for you to join us as we have joined in Global Mission for the last 12 years. It's, y'all, how do I say this? Lamar, are you listening? Yep. The boss is listening. If I get this wrong, I'm in big trouble. It's post-colonial upstream indigenous mission. That's the best way I can say it. I had this huge conversation this week with Clyde Howell. You're out there. Listen, it's post-American evangelical upstream problem-solving mission. You want to be part of it.
Right.
We're part of it.
Yep.
That's all I can say on that.
Yep.
Am I in trouble?
No. That's
Am I in
good.
trouble? He's not even listening. He's talking to the trumpet player.
And I think,
of course he is.
And then to tie into that, we're also going to look at local missions, and
Correct.
not just, when I say local, I'm not talking about Austin, although we will talk about Austin, but local missions in your context.
Right.
If you're joining us from Pennsylvania,
Yep.
what does that look like in your area? And we're going to talk about ways to engage locally where you are and be good news to somebody.
Can I
And
tell you a funny story?
Shoot.
Super fun story.
If it's
Friend of
short.
mine, colleague, UMC pastor in Victoria, Texas. We had this conversation this week with a couple of other clergy people from around the state. And he was inspired by the creativity around how do we do mission in COVID. And he got off a morning Zoom that he and I were both on a panel on. And then he got back on the evening Zoom, which I was also with him on that same panel. And he told me offline, he says, you know what I did? He says, I got off the earlier panel and I thought, what can we uniquely do here? And his church sits across the street from a massive school, and they've got free Wi-Fi, and they can produce lots of coffee. And a lot of the students at the school where he sits across the street from don't have wireless capability at home. And so every day his parking lot is filled with people who they're just going to say, this is how we're going to serve you. Free Wi-Fi, we're not using it. Come, can we, this is the kind of creative stuff that we have to be thinking. And we want you to think about this wherever you are. It's not complicated. It's actually quite simple to join us in mission around the world by simply looking again at your context and saying, what can we do to serve? Not how do we build a church? How do we get people in a building? Nope. How do we serve people with what we have? For us, it's a unique answer. For you, it'll be different. Cape Coral's different than Pomona, California. It just is. So we're going to encourage you to do that. So we're going to be pushing towards September, a focus on how to engage because we think it matters. What else?
Last is I have a question. The best way for people to request prayer needs, are there prayer teams in place? Yes. If you will email care at austennewchurch.com, care at austennewchurch.com. Also, in the virtual tab, you can drop down. You can find that there as well. And so, if you would like to be prayed over, prayed with, prayed for, cared for in some way, if you'll just reach out to them, or you can email me, trey@austennewchurch.com. Let me know how we can be praying for you. If it needs to be confidential, if it needs to be whatever, let us know that as well, and we'll take care of that.
There you have it.
I think that's it. Anybody else? Nobody?
We're good.
Sam, you want to dig some more holes? Are we good? We're good till next
Is
week?
there something savory you'd like to say slightly off camera as we go, Sam? Oh, I'm going to be in so much trouble for picking on it.
think
I
that's
think it was my favorite moment in the history of ANC. I'm
Ever.
just saying. All right. Blessings. We'll see you guys
Love
soon.
you.
Yep.
Bye.